Hello and a very warm welcome to the old shop. It's a lovely typical April day today. We've had rain, we've had sunshine, we've had haziness, no hail yet, but a bit of everything else I think. It's lovely. It really is a beautiful time of year and the birds have been singing very, very joyously. So I hope you'll enjoy this video. It majors in quite a lot on the garden this time, and in particular all the disasters that happened when the builders abandoned the building project here and also the garden, and what happened next. So I hope you'll enjoy it. Here I am on my wedding day, which is a very, very happy day. And after that, we were inseparable. We would explore together and we would work together as a partnership. Here we are leading a guided walk. And Trevor would encourage me in my own artwork. But sadly, we had a couple of harrowing years and he sadly died. I was left on my own. I had never lived on my own before and I was 56 years old and I had to work out what to do. So I went to the places we used to go to. This is Warham Camp. I moved out from our home and moved into a rented place temporarily while I looked for and lost several places, but eventually I did find the old shop and came to look at it, and that wasn't what I'd been looking for really. I fell in love. So I moved into a caravan. You can see the caravan next to me here while renovation was taking place, and I had a kitchen and a shower in the outbuilding while this was my kitchen in the house, and the work went on and on and on. But I had a cosy bed in the caravan and everything went very pear-shaped indeed, and all my money was basically gone. And one day the builders took their tools away on a Friday night, and so much still to do, and they never came back on the Monday morning. I guessed they wouldn't somehow, and they didn't. So I had to work out again what to do. I had very little money left. I didn't know who to ask to help, or any other workmen or anything. I took refuge in the beautiful landscape around me, the sea I would go off to, and this is the river, or actually it's the canal just down the road, and I could go and watch the full moon over the sea as well. But of course there was things going on at this time as well. I had a variety of workmen come, some of whom were okay, most of whom messed things up. And this was how the garden was in the spring, because part of what the builders had been going to do was within the budget was to get the garden landscaped so I could grow my fruit and flowers and herbs and everything that I dreamed of. But none of that happened, sadly. This was an old apple tree that had canker, so I couldn't plant anything else, other fruit trees around it, or they would have succumbed as well. Hello, good evening, it's Imogen here at the old shop, and here I am outside my outbuilding. It's getting a bit dark. The owls have been hooting already, and you'll probably hear them maybe in the next moment or two when I just have a word. Just wanted to say hello, and just back from Zumba. Got a bit hot and sweaty, but all good, all great actually. And I'm just wanted to say hello, and just to say well, it's just a trial really that I'm actually speaking directly to camera for the first time, being a bit braver than I usually am. And I'll be doing more of this, so I hope you'll join me, follow along with the renovation of my cottage, garden and studio. So yeah, hope to see you soon, and good night. Bye. It's the countdown for the end of this little shed. Well, actually it's quite a big shed, but after a lot of deliberation it's got to come down. It's the obstacle between getting a mini digger through to the back and getting my garden sorted out, and inside it is really in a very dangerous state, which I will also video and show you. But this is the front anyway, this is the front of it. I'll just go inside and show you the inside. Oh, it's actually too dark to show you the inside of the shed, so I will video it in the morning. But anyway, this is the view through the old door into the garden, giving a glimpse of the beyond. And here's the back. That's the old door, which I'll show you a bit more of tomorrow when it's light, before it starts to get knocked down tomorrow morning. And this is the back elevation, which is much wider than the front because of the shape of the wall it's resting against. As you can see, it is a lovely old building, or it has been in its time, but unfortunately inside it is the woodwork is completely knackered, and I just do need to be able to get through. And well, that's all there is to it really. The other outbuilding in the middle is going to stay, which we'll look at another time, I'm sure. I'm going to be patching that up, at least for now. Anyway, that's that really. I'll just take a long shot of it as well to show you. There's where it joins up against the old wall, and background. Got a few things leaning against this, and you can see what a jungle the garden is, and it goes as far as about here where the tarpaulin starts. So it's quite a wide space. But anyway, that's for tomorrow, so I'll say good night. Good night. So the next morning it was demolished. You can see inside here before it went the lovely old ladder that I saved, although it got a bit trashed later on by one of the builders, but that's another story. That's when this is gone, and you can see here the other building, in fact later on, was being re-tinned. The caravan's there I was still living in. And there's a mini digger digging up the whole garden and burying the roots of the trees. You know, I don't know, looking at it again, I'm in very much two minds about everything that happened, but it's happened. I was having people doing things. I'm paying a lot of money, the little money I had left, so I had to have the patio done. It was just a mud bath, and it became, as you can see in this video, it was done really badly. And I did get them to redo it, but it's not really any better now, to be honest, or slightly better, but it still floods. But that's just symptomatic of so much that happened here, and I'm not going to go through every single little thing that happened, because a lot of things did, basically. Let's just say I'd only recommend two of the many workmen who came after that, and one of them was the plumber, and the other one did some work in the garden, put the new trellis up, and they were brothers-in-law. So where was I left in the garden? Well, the answer is with a completely bare patch, the whole garden, which looked so much smaller with everything out of it, the trees and everything else. But very quickly it started to get overtaken by wild plants that weren't intended, and I just didn't know how to divide the garden up. It had been a huge mistake, I felt. Just didn't have that kind of vision to have something new from what was there before. I'm much better with something there to work with, but I didn't know that then. You find these things out when they happen. Beautiful sunflower appeared by itself. But otherwise, as you can probably see, it was just a disaster. And here we are today, not perfect or perfectly realised in any way at all, but we'll talk a bit more about that next time. It's looking very green, just in the last I don't know how long really, a week or two. And it's also, the ground is looking very full of things like thistles, nettles and ground elder, and in particular, of course, the bindweed, which is back. But we're not going to be focusing on that today. We'll do a proper tour next time. But I just wanted really to show you the contrast between the photographs we were looking at when the whole garden was completely bare, and this abundance of young trees, and the vegetable garden over the other side, which is clear. It's not got anything growing yet, but I've cleared it ready. It's been really cold, so I don't think I've missed out by not putting things in yet. That's to come really soon. You can see here there's no, even though we're not doing a proper tour, you can see there's no bare earth. It is just so verdant with green. So much coming up, and I'm going to have to work out myself where the balance is going to lie, how much I'm going to try and manage this, and how much it's just a thankless task to try to, and I'll just let things happen as they happen. And I think there'll probably be quite a bit of the latter, and just marvelling at what is there. Where you can see little dots of pink, it's all apple blossom, so that's very exciting. Lots of the trees have got blossom on. There's another one here, that's the Adam's pearmain, and there's one over the other side which has really got a lot of very fully open blossom. I can't remember what tree that one is. We'll find out later on if it has any fruit on it. And just in front of me here is the sea buckthorn, which has come into leaf, very much so, and that's happened very quickly. But we're not doing a tour today, as I said. This is actually just to show you the verdant garden, and next time we'll have a look at it in detail, and I'll show you where some of the good parts are, where some of the problems lie, and maybe someone will have a good idea as to how to strike a good balance, because that's really what I'm going to be looking for, I can tell, this year already. One of the things I find most exciting about the garden, problems or no problems, is the way the birds are landing in the trees now. That seems to give real validity to them, as if they are real trees because birds land in them. And I can sit here and watch that happening a lot, particularly the blue tits seem to really enjoy sitting in the trees. And it's nice just to enjoy the birdsong and see the occasional buzzard flying over, or kestrel quite often. And I'm hoping the swallows will be back quite soon now, very soon hopefully. And I'll let you know when they do arrive. I'm sending out a few rowan dance candles. That was the May's Eve candle I made last year. And I had a few left over, as I did with the other end of the year, Earth Chant. So later in the year I shall be talking about that one again probably, but I had a few left over, and I always thought that I would offer them again at this time of year. So this year. So that's what I've done, and I've got to send some out, but I had everything I needed to do that, all the bits and pieces that go with them. But the one thing I didn't really have were the sticks, because they have 2 rowan twigs with them and some red thread, so you can tie them and make a little charm afterwards, as is traditional on May's Eve. Anyway, so I thought I'll come pop down to Crowwood before it rains. It looks as if it's going to rain, having been beautiful this morning, and
see how the rowans are doing, because I haven't been down here for a while, and also see if I can find some sticks. Obviously I'm not going to be cutting sticks where there are lovely new leaves on them, but there may well be some old twigs that I can find on the trees or underneath the trees, and cut some new sticks. So here we are, this is just the entrance of the wood, and there's already one little rowan tree here, which I didn't notice for quite a while, but as soon as I did, of course, it makes its presence very clear, and you can see the beautiful little leaves coming, and even, I don't know if you can see this, whether I can get it to focus, maybe I can, maybe I can't, but anyway, they're little blossom bunches in the middle, just green obviously at the moment, in the middle of each cluster of leaves, which is lovely to see. So I'll take you along and we'll go to the next tree, which is I think the one I went to before when I cut the sticks, and see what we can find. I can see that someone has been cutting wood here, so we'll see what's there when we get there. I was just looking at this massive cut tree trunk and all the wonderful fungus on it. Some herb Robert growing out of the crevice in the tree, or a little hollow part of the tree trunk. It just wants to grow everywhere. It's a beautiful plant. I really love it. I know not all gardeners are so keen. It does put its feet under the table and smells, I think, possibly a little bit of foxes, but as I love that smell, and as I admire it very much, so I don't really mind. I do have to pull them out when there's too many of them, but they make good compost as well, so in permaculture nothing's wasted. I've really been noticing how much more birdsong there's been. I've been looking forward to it actually, because it's been very, very quiet. It's seemingly very, very quiet, and I was worried because there's been a lot of bird flu, and I know the bird populations have been affected. The oak's one of the later trees to come out into leaf, but you can see here little clusters of leaves going to burst out quite soon now. We're just coming up to the tree I remember so well from last year. I was using it a lot for photography. I was putting the pots in the branches to photograph them, and hanging the little bunting flags that I made from the branches as well as photographing it as it opened, because to start with I would just, when I was first coming down here, there were just buds, and then obviously the buds got bigger and burst, and the last photographs I was taking when the blossom was out was not, as you can see, it's not out yet, but it's a lot further advanced than it was on the other little tree we were looking at the entrance of the woods. It won't be too long now. So what I'm looking for are some sticks that aren't being used by the tree at the moment, so I have to put the camera down for that, but when I find some and cut some, I'll show you what I found. It's quite windy this afternoon, as you can see, the wind's getting up, so I won't be too long doing this. It's getting a little bit chilly as well. I've just picked a few, picked up a few sticks, which is enough to start me off. I think there's some really nice gleaming sticks there that I shall be using in my packages. So it's just, I can feel it's just about to come on to rain, and I'm a little bit of a distance from home now, so I'm going to go back and start packing up the packages later on today. I thought it was high time we had another tour of the front garden, because things have really grown a lot since we last had a look. It's been really windy the last few days, and I've not really wanted to come out and show you everything blowing around like crazy, but it's calmed down a bit now, and as you can probably hear, the birds are really, really going for it this morning. And so I thought this was a good time to do it before it rains, which I think it's forecast to do later. So where should we start? Let's start here. You can see now how the roses have gone completely mad in the last little while. All the leaves are out, looking really glossy and healthy. This one at the moment is really well behaved, not flopping over the gate. I really want to try and find a better way of holding it back, but I haven't done that yet. This is Desdemona, and the other one behind is called Boscabel, and that's perhaps not quite so far advanced, but the Clematis has come out, or started to come out. It's just a stand, I say just, but it's a Clematis montana, which is quite a standard, very vigorous kind of clematis, which is what I wanted, to get it covering the porch and just looking really verdant. And I love the pink as well. A bit of a sucker for pink, as you can see as we go around. The ribes is out, or ribes, I think maybe you call it ribes, which is the ornamental currant, and that's a really early flower, and it's really good for pollinators for that reason, so it's always good to see the flowers on there. The other thing which has really come out a lot since we last had a look are the tulips, and there's 2 or 3 different kinds which I've put in at different times, but none of them this autumn, so they will come back for a second time. And there's a lovely double one here called Copper Image, and that's a single one. I can't remember what it's called, I'm afraid, but it's a very similar colour to the double one. The willow is, I'll just show you, it's all in leaf, and it definitely is tall enough now that I could start being a bit more intentional with it and start weaving it into some kind of archway. I think the reason I haven't is because I'm not quite sure how to, but I think what I'm going to do is to take off the side shoot that's here, and then try and almost plait together the stems and see what happens. Anyway, I'll show you that once it's done, but that hasn't happened yet, so we'll fight our way through. Whoops, and fall over the devil's stone, because the devil's stone is like that. I very rarely come in here without tripping over this stone, which came from the Stiper stones in Shropshire years ago, or near them anyway, where you have these square pieces of rock scattered everywhere, and it's within that formation there is a formation called the Devil's Chair, so I call it the Devil's Stone, and it certainly likes to trip me up, unlike the Dragon Stone on the other side here, which never trips me up, which is interesting. It's got more kind of, I don't know what the word is really, it's got a different character, shall we say, not quite so mischievous. It's another Copper Image tulip. They're just at their best now, really opened up properly. And the other clematis here is romping away. They haven't really got much to climb up. I'm not really being very good at helping them along, so maybe I should come out here and do a bit more. I've just more or less let it do its own thing really, and it's been doing that well since I cleared out the old stems and so on and put some more wood chip down. It's done its own thing since then and cut some things back, like this dogwood, which you can see little flowers on the top now. Lovely healthy looking rose coming up the side of the house, which is called New Dawn. And more tulips. I like this one as well, and again because I put them in a few years ago, I can't remember what they're called, but it's one of the lily flowered type, I think you call it, when they open out in a rather beautiful tall shape like this. All the little drops, as you always do get on the lady's mantle, that sparkle in the sunshine. It's not really sunny today. It's kind of it's lovely, but it's just quite what's the word? It's kind of hazy. Hazy is the word. And you get sun now and again, like at the moment the sun's come through again. This is the rose called Emily Bronte, they're all looking really nice at the moment. I know it may not last. They're having this lovely flush of growth for the early spring, and then sometimes sometimes they don't look quite so perfect after a while, the leaves, but it's lovely while they've got this beautiful vigour about them. And there's other, I don't really want to go through every single one, because I'm sure we'll talk about different ones each time we come and have a look. There are more roses on the trellis here. This is the little wayfaring tree, and if I hold the camera up here, you can see it flowers on the top. It's actually a type of viburnum called the wayfaring tree, which is a lovely name. We come across here to the little pond, which is quite full at the moment, and I have cleared out the leaves and things that fell into it, which is always a hazard when it's placed as it is among all this the hedge and the other shrubs and trees and things. But yeah, I've cleared that, and this is water mint, which should smell nice yes it does, when I pinch it. There's no frog spawn in either of the ponds, but I'm going to see if I can do the same as I did last year and see if I can find some to introduce, which I'll show you again when that happens. This is the hazel, or 2 hazel trees. They're both looking quite happy. And the Japanese anemone, which of course will grow really tall. The flowers come up really tall and give some height later on, much later on in the season. And that's a perennial poppy there. And another one of these lovely lily flowered tulips. As you can probably tell, I've kind of gone for a sort of colour scheme of bronzes. I suppose you'd call it bronze, like apricot bronze. That's a lovely one, isn't it? Oh, beautiful. Apricot bronze colours and pinks. There's a snake's head fritillary, one of my favourite flowers. You can hardly believe the beauty of these checkered patterns they have on them. They're just absolutely gorgeous. And just the last of the hellebores there, and the colours of that really go well with the other, well, to my eye anyway, with these other colours. Just really love this combination. And I have put some fresh water in the bird bath a day or 2 ago. Perhaps that's why the birds really enjoy it in the garden here. I'm not sure. I'm sure you can hear they're much chirpier than they have been recently. There's a geum which isn't out yet, but again you can see that it will be, and that's got bronzy kind of flowers as well. So I think we've come back round to the beginning and nothing else in flower. Everything's growing so fast. I think there'll be more to see next time. I'm sure there will. Maybe just enjoy the birdsong for a moment. You see, I left the hawthorn in the corner of the hedge here, which has grown into quite a tree, and the sparrows and the robin and other birds as well, blue tits, really enjoy sitting in there. Oh, I must just show you. You see the bedroom window up there, slightly open, which is how I have it all the time, really. When I went up to bed last night, or before I went to bed really, in the evening, I could see this shape on the you have like a stay thing that holds the window across, you know, those bar things inside the bedroom, and there was a shape sitting there, and it was a blackbird, and it had roosted for the night. I say it, I don't know whether they had, I should say. I don't know whether it was a he or a she. It was not easy to see in that light. Just with its head just tucked right in, and I didn't know quite what to do. I was a bit scared to sleep in the same room in case it woke up and started flapping around, but in the end I did. After a lot of faffing about on my part, so I'll train the camera somewhere else while I'm telling you this. After lots of faffing about on my part and taking the bedclothes off the bed and putting them on again, because I thought, yes, I will sleep in there, and I really want to see what happens in the morning. And what happened in the morning was the blackbirds slept soundly all night, and then in the morning, about 5:30 in fact, the dawn chorus, I could hear birds outside, and this blackbird, I say little, it was the same size as a blackbird, but I think it was young. It seems really early for the first brood to have fledged, but I think that it must have been that, because it was just making these small little chirping noises, which is what the young blackbirds do. And then another blackbird came and kind of flapped against the window to try and get to this blackbird, and the blackbird itself kind of flapped against the window. I thought it would just go straight out of the gap, but didn't. You can see, I'll show you again, the gap is big enough, you know, it was just inside the gap, but anyway. What happened then was that I went and pushed the window further open, right open, so the blackbird was sitting on the stay thing, but sitting outside, and then flew off. So, and then I guess the other blackbird found the parent blackbird, flew off with the young one. So it must have been quite worrying for the parent overnight, not knowing where the baby was, and the baby was sharing, I say baby, but the young one was sharing my bedroom.
So that's never happened to me before, and it may never happen again. It was just a fluke. I was so surprised to see a blackbird in my bedroom. But yeah, all was well that ended well.